About the world's greatest apology video,
which is
Miranda Sings.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, go for it.
So Miranda Sings put up an apology video, and there were, I'm not going to get this right, there were a handful of criticisms of her. One was that 14 years ago, she made insensitive jokes about a fat woman on an airplane. Mm-hmm. I didn't watch the original, but that's my understanding. Another one was that years ago, many years ago, when she was 3 years old, the family dog bit her. That dog was put down, and she joked about it years after that when she had a camera on her, but still years ago from today. And the other one was that in a live stream, they were doing giveaways. Apparently, I've never watched her content, but my understanding is that she gives away funny, random things, shoes, this, that, the other thing. On a live stream, they'd found this lingerie that she'd never worn. It was ugly lingerie. Her male co-star, I don't know his name, was wearing it over what I'm wearing, a t-shirt and basketball shorts. And one of the fans, who was kind of like an active fan, who was 13 or 14 at the time, said, "Oh my God, I want that lingerie." And she said, "Haha," and it was on a live stream. "Oh my gosh, okay, fine, we'll send it to you." And for whatever reason, people decided now was the time to get her for all these things. And what I thought...
What was the catalyst? Why did people decide to get her?
Oh, man, there was a reason. I don't know.
Did he come out? Did the fan come out and say something?
The fan actually came out and said a bunch of this stuff. He made these videos, which he's now 17 or 18. And I don't know why. I watched some of the videos and he was like, "I can't even look at these. I'm disgusted." And I was like, somebody get in your ear? Like, that's a piece of cloth. Why are you so... What do you...
I'm sorry. He's disgusted by the underwear he requested?
The underwear, yeah. I was like, did somebody tell you that you were assaulted by this? And so anyway, my read on the apology video was she says, "I am so sorry if you were hurt by my jokes. I am so sorry." And she says it up and down. And
yeah, she takes 100%. This is why I was saying it's the greatest apology video, because she doesn't cry. She doesn't do the crocodile tears or whatever. She takes 100% responsibility for everyone's feelings. Mm-hmm. She doesn't tell anyone that they're overreacting.
"If you were hurt by my joke about the dog that bit me that my family had to put down, I'm so sorry." Which I go, is that helpful to the people out there in the world who, I mean, you were bit by a dog, you had to put your family dog down, and then years later you made a quip about it. Is it helpful for you to apologize to the type of person who is upset by that? Or does it actually, and I know it gets you off the hook because that's what people want, is it actually more helpful to go, these feelings that you have about that thing that I said are your responsibility? Mm-hmm. Particularly in this case where I was bit by a dog, my family had to put it down, and guess what? I wasn't too pleased with it at the time. You need to, if this is going to upset you, it does me no good to apologize and set up this expectation
that upsets you, you will be upset a lot. Mm-hmm. If somebody talking about when they had to put their own dog down because it attacked them, and that is upsetting to you,
or made a joke about it,
you're going to be upset a lot.
And if it's okay if you're upset, but to say the way for me to get past this is to receive an apology from a person that I've never met, mm-hmm. you will remain in a state of upset and anger for a long time. And in my opinion, you will be projecting that onto Miranda Sings when really there's someone else in your life that is much closer to you that you have genuine issues with you need to...
And if you actually address those, maybe you could be happier.
Yes. Everywhere. And so my thought when watching Miranda Sings is, one, this was the most, one of the most widely accepted apologies videos I'd ever seen.
Yeah, if your goal is just to get left alone, just to have everybody get off your back, it seems like perfectly executed.
Yeah. But, and I don't know how she feels. My sense was that she was sincere in her taking total responsibility. But I actually thought it was inappropriate. My sense was... people can be upset at you without you having done anything wrong.
Sure.
And so while you might regret that people are upset or sorry or wish, especially when you have an audience that size, I think it's important to recognize that, one, you're not responsible for all the positive feelings that you make, so don't take credit for it and don't get a big head. You're not, this is people still projecting positive things onto you. They see you make a couple jokes and they think you're amazing. Well, you're not. You're a person who made a couple jokes that they laughed at. And two, that these negative things get projected onto you, which is also not in someone else's best interest for you to claim responsibility for. So yeah, that was my thought of, this is very effective for her in terms of getting off. I think she believes it, but I don't know that it's good for everyone if it's for us to live in a world where people don't take responsibility for their feelings. Mm-hmm. And we have these discussions sometimes with our friends when they're in relationships. and they'll tell a story of, I said this and my girlfriend or boyfriend got upset. Like, what do I do? Because there's such this Jocko Willink extreme ownership. If it happens, it's your fault. And sometimes when I hear what happened, I'm like, listen, we all come from the same culture. So I feel like I can understand this joke. Their upset feeling isn't your fault.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they need to learn how to get past this. Now, that's just my opinion, but I do see this. I think taking responsibility for other people's feelings does go too far. I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, I have a controversial thought.
Go ahead.
So maybe we'll have to edit this out.
Yeah.
Tell me after. So it's interesting. There is this sense of you can't say that because it is upsetting to me, right? We've kind of accepted that that's the case in a lot of areas when it comes to jokes, right?
Yeah.
Especially like the left would say, and I consider myself a liberal, but there's a lot of this like, you can't joke about that. You can't express that thought because it's upsetting to me. And because of that, you shouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. Right? Is that fair?
Yeah. It's like, you punch me in the face is what they feel. Like, if I'm hurt, it's because you've assaulted me. You made a joke that was insensitive to my race, my sexuality, my upbringing, whatever it is. Sure.
I'm upset. I'm offended. You should apologize and you should never express yourself in that way again.
Yeah.
But if right-leaning person were to go to someone who is cross-dressing and say, the way that you are dressed is upsetting to me. Can you please not express yourself in this way?
Yeah.
They would get destroyed by those same people. So it seems inconsistent. Like, at what point is it more important to be able to express yourself? And at what point is it more important to protect someone's feelings?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, and the reason I choose the transgender one and not the not like being homosexual or whatever is because homosexual is more than just expressing yourself, but you can identify as whatever gender you want.
I think homosexual is at least a comparison here, and you can dig in, but at the principled level, what you're saying is when I'm telling you said something, it upsets me, therefore it's your responsibility to change it. Why is saying different than dressing? Is saying different than kissing someone?
And I like the dressing because it's an expression of how you feel inside, right? You'll feel inside the way you feel no matter how you dress. But you're like, I want to dress like this because this is how I want to express how I feel.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I have a thought I think is funny and I want to express it. And so it's interesting, like, at what point do you prioritize expressing over other people's feelings?
Yeah.
And just say, you have to deal with this because I'm expressing who I am. And at what point do you value other people's feelings and you go, oh, I'm not allowed to express myself? Well, and it seems like people just want to express themselves the way they want and stop other people from expressing themselves in ways they don't like.
I totally agree with you.
And that's not a principle. That's not a principle is what I'm saying. Like, if whether you're Republican or you're Democrat, you're left or right, you should pick one. And I really honestly don't even care which one. I mean, I have a preference personally.
Yeah.
But it's like, pick one. Do you want to express yourself however you want, prioritize that over other people's feelings, and allow other people to express themselves over your feelings? Or do you want them to censor themselves in how they express themselves, and then accept that you also now have a burden to censor the way you express yourself?
Sure. And then there's, of course, various levels of enforcement. There's a level of enforcement which is like, look, you can do whatever you want, but I won't be your friend, which is fine. Or like,
I think you allow the natural consequences of like, yeah, you tell jokes that I don't like, that I find offensive, then I'm not going to hang out with you.
Well, so then you would be a proponent of cancel culture.
No.
Why not? Because what you just said is, if you tell jokes that I don't like, then I'm not going to associate, and I have the freedom to express how I feel on Twitter.
If someone tells jokes that you don't like, stop watching their YouTube channel.
What if I want to express myself by hitting up their sponsor on Twitter and telling them that I don't like that joke? Isn't that freedom of expression?
I guess, but weirdly enough, the reason you're upset goes counter to your own values. Because what you're saying is, I value the ability to express myself over other people's feelings, unless they're my own feelings. Well, I want you canceled. Yes, and I think
it seems to me that the distinction that you're drawing is there's the legal thing of what you can and can't say in a workplace, or else like the law will come down on you. And then on the other side of it is just, there's going to be these socially enforced preferences. And then even past that is like, look, this is how you live a good life. We're not going to socially enforce it. And I think that might be what you're saying, because from a social enforcement standpoint, cancel culture makes sense. I don't like what you said. I'm going to go on and say that I didn't like what you said, and me and my friends are going to go scream at the sponsor that we're not. And here's the thing, my purchasing is an expression of myself, and I'm not going to purchase G Fuel or whatever anymore because I don't like what that person said.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is when you are aggressively attacking someone because you don't like how they're expressing themselves, you should just recognize that what you're doing is inviting aggressive attacks on yourself.
Yes. And so it seems that if there's these three things, one is this legal rule of, okay, what kind of discrimination is allowed in the workplace or else you will get fined, go to jail. Then there's this middle rule of, okay, you're going to face Twitter mobs, but you can say whatever you want. You can still do that. And then over here is like, this is a good way to live your life. It seems like what you're more advocating is a good way to live your life. And is to just let people say shit that pisses you off, take a deep breath, and move on.
Sure.
Yeah. But...
And by the way, and maybe remove yourself from being in that person's presence, but don't go shouting at them. You know what I mean? Because if you don't want to get shouted at for your jokes, don't shout at somebody because they're wearing clothes you don't like. And if you don't want to get shouted at for the clothes you're wearing, don't shout at someone else for the jokes they're telling. Because when you shout at someone for the jokes they tell or the way that they dress, what you invite is a reciprocating culture where you're going to get shouted at for the jokes you tell.
So I'm going to make this harder for you now. Should you shout at people who get abortions or who eat animals or who do things that according to, or who, let's go even crazier, like have satanic death cults, you know what I mean? Where they kill people in some no government zone. What rules would you have around that? Is that okay to shout out? Is that a live and let live scenario?
That's a little bit different, right? Because that's loss of life. That's not expressing. So I think what I see is a lot of people getting mad about how people express themselves, which I do think you could probably have a different rule over how someone expresses themselves and the freedom that they get to express themselves versus the freedom they get to take a life.
Okay, so but take a life is kind of an arbitrary thing. So I can take it back from take a life. What if they don't take lives? What if they beat animals or beat, something like that? And that's the way they express themselves. They take squirrels and they throw them against trees. They don't kill them. They just pelt them against trees.
The reason you would argue against that is because you're saying that they're causing suffering to other people. And what you're saying is words cause suffering.
This is the difficulty. And I think this is the truth that people haven't acknowledged about this question. Well, I think wherever you draw the line,
you just draw a line somewhere.
Arbitrary.
Yeah.
It's so arbitrary. You're like, oh, that squirrel's suffering. It's like people suffer from words. Period. I mean, that is obvious. Now the question is, how do you weigh that, and what words are too much and what words are not enough? It is not an obvious answer. Because some words, if you just call someone stupid, which today it's okay to call people stupid, well, if that person goes and commits suicide.
Yeah. But the counter argument is if you don't let people express themselves, they suffer.
Yes.
So I think you do have to draw an arbitrary line somewhere. And my guess would be you just do a utilitarian assessment of suffering. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
And so you go like, okay, how much pleasure do you get from murdering someone versus the displeasure that they and their family and everyone gets? And it's like, well, you shouldn't murder. And it's like, well, how much displeasure do you create?
Well, actually, utilitarianism has serious problems.
I know it does.
Because if an entire society wants to kill somebody...
well, that's what we do.
Sure. But utilitarianism necessarily destroys minorities, is what it does. Because it goes, we don't think that gay people... It's really upsetting to me that there's gay people out there. So if we just stoned them, that would be... utilitarian. There's a lot more of us than there are of them, and you wind up with shit that you go, I don't know about that. Like that doesn't seem like a good way to do.
So how do you draw the line?
I think what you have to first do is acknowledge that it's not principled. Is that like, look, this garbage about free speech, it never existed. You can't yell fire in a theater and going, oh well, it exists except for slander and hate speech, or it's slander and calumny or whatever. Is just to say, no, there's segments of speech which we have said are illegal. You cannot do because it causes too much undue suffering. And it's just kind of a weird recognition that like there's a lot of people in the world. They don't all have the same wants, needs, and interests. And at some point, they're going to bump up against each other in ways that we can't really perfectly mediate. And it's then power takes over, and you just go, who's got the bigger army, the more guns, etc. But to acknowledge that, and what I think that does is it stops people from taking such ridiculous moral high grounds for wherever they've chosen to draw their line. Weirdly enough, that relativistic belief would say like somebody else could like kind of knock down this door, punch my face in, and but I draw the line, my line is that don't punch me in the face, and I won't punch you in the face unless.
Well, what I'm saying is wherever you draw your line, you should stick to within yourself.
I agree.
So that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying
you're advocating for internal consistency.
Yeah, what I'm saying is if you're going to punch someone in the face at random, you cannot get upset when someone punches you in the face.
You want to punch Nazis because you disapprove of their worldview. Yeah. You need to be prepared for someone to punch you because they disapprove of your worldview.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And you ought to remain consistent with that.
That's what I'm saying. And what I see is a lot of inconsistency where people are trying to censor someone else.
Yeah, you can only punch Nazis, but you
can't
punch
and what
me.
they're saying is exactly, you have to censor yourself because it's upsetting to me. But I won't change any of my behavior that's upsetting to you. And what I'm saying is don't do that. I guess I'm saying have your own, wherever your line is, just apply it to yourself.
Yeah, which is the hardest thing to do in all these scenarios. And this is a great place to come to is, okay, so you've decided this is your principle. I stand for free speech. I this, that, and the other thing. Well, let's take Brian Rose. Well, rather than focusing on what other people aren't doing for you, how can you promote free speech in the areas where you're the boss, you're the authority? Mm-hmm. Could you not censor comments, not delete things? Are you prepared? You know what I mean? Everybody's got plenty of laxness in the application of their own principles inside of their own life. Yeah. And if everybody just focuses on that, then we'll be more prepared to like tell other people, okay, you're being inconsistent.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. Yeah. Like if you're going to be in a satanic murder cult, you have to accept that people can murder you. You know what I'm saying? At any moment for any reason.
Yeah.
That's what I'm advocating. I see a lot of people trying to get the world to do what they want. Mm-hmm. But then when somebody asks them to do exactly the same thing, just like, hey, don't express yourself in a way that I find upsetting. Yeah. It's like, that is unreasonable.
Yes.
But that's what you just asked for 3 minutes ago.
Sure. And what they try to do is they try to pretend by getting very granular how it's different. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's different because...
And I'm sure we'll get comments about how it is. But I would just say before you make that comment, breathe and ask yourself, is it possible that you're asking of other people something you're unwilling to apply to yourself?
Yeah. Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.